In a brutal alien arena where death is the only expectation, one human dares to defy the system. Outnumbered, outmatched, and on the brink of destruction, he refuses to fight for blood. Instead, he fights for something greater: mercy. But when the Empire's champion challenges him, the world watches. Will he survive, or will his choice to show mercy lead to his downfall? This is the story of strength, honor, and the power of choosing a different path. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The pit was loud. Thousands of voices, alien and strange, screamed from every direction. They came from the jagged seats that curved above the blood-stained arena. Some voices laughed, others cursed, but all wanted one thing: violence. Floating above the crowd were glowing cameras, silently capturing the scene for 1,000,000 screens across distant planets. Everyone was watching. The arena floor, rough and cracked, smelled like rusted metal and old blood. It was not a place for peace. It was not a place for mercy. In the center of it all stood a human, thin, dirty, and quiet. His name was Callum. His shirt was torn and his hands were wrapped in old, fraying cloth. His dark hair was wet with sweat, and his skin was marked with old scars. But his eyes were calm. He didn't look angry. He didn't look afraid. He just stood there, still and silent, as the crowd hurled insults and trash down toward him. Most had never seen a human before. They had only heard the stories, that humans were weak, soft, too kind for war. Opposite Callum, the heavy gate groaned, open. From the shadow stepped Nerea. She was tall, her deep violet skin gleaming beneath armor that looked like it had grown from her bones. Sharp tattoos wrapped around her arms like vines. Her eyes were golden and fierce. The crowd roared as she entered. She was their champion. She was the Thorn Queen, undefeated in her last 30 fights. Fast, cruel, and without pity. She stared at Callum, almost amused. "They sent you?" she asked, spinning her twin blades in her hands. The steel shimmered red under the pit lights. "This won't take long." Callum didn't answer. He only bowed his head slightly, a quiet gesture of respect. "I'm not here to fight you," he said, his voice steady, though not loud. Nerea blinked. For a moment she looked confused. Then she laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "This isn't a place for talk, human. It's the pit. You fight or you die." "I'm not afraid to die," Callum said, meeting her gaze. "But I won't kill to make them cheer." The crowd didn't like that. Boos erupted from all corners. Some threw bottles. Others screamed in languages Callum didn't understand. High above, a voice boomed from the arena speakers. "Begin!" Nerea didn't hesitate. She lunged, fast as lightning, her blade aimed, straight for Callum's heart. He ducked to the side, barely avoiding the strike. The ground shook beneath her step. He rolled away, not striking, only moving, light on his feet like a dancer in a storm. She came again, harder. He blocked with his forearm, grunting as her blade scraped his skin. Blood trickled down his wrist, but he didn't fight back. "What are you doing?" she growled. "Why don't you fight?" "I'm waiting," he said. "For what?" "For you to see," Callum said, stepping backward, careful with every move. The crowd was quieter now, not silent, but uncertain. This wasn't what they came for. They wanted blood. Instead, they were watching a man who refused to strike. Nerea breathed hard, sweat sliding down her brow. She circled him slowly now, less certain. "You're not weak," she said. "So, why do you act like prey?" Callum wiped the blood from his hand onto his pants. "Because I don't fight for blood," he said. "I fight for something else." Nerea's grip on her blade tightened. "Then fight me with honor," she said. "Give me a real challenge." Callum shook his head. "Honor isn't killing someone just because they tell you to." That hit something deep in her, and she roared, charging again, faster, angrier. The blades flew. The fight turned wild. Callum was forced to move quicker, to block, to dodge, to breathe harder than he ever had. But he still didn't strike her. Then it happened. She lunged too far. Callum twisted, grabbed her arm, and flipped her over his shoulder. She slammed to the ground. Her weapon clattered away. Dust rose around them. The crowd gasped. This was the moment. He had won. He stood over her, bruised and bleeding, but alive. She looked up at him, teeth clenched. "Finish it," she whispered. Callum dropped to one knee. Slowly, he extended his hand toward her. "I didn't come here to kill you," he said softly. Nerea stared at the hand like it was a weapon. In her world, mercy was a lie. Weakness. But this was something she had never seen in the pit. Respect. Her fingers twitched. Then slowly she reached out. Their hands touched. The crowd didn't cheer. They screamed. Sirens blared. Guards rushed into the arena. Overseers shouted into their radios. Callum stood, hands raised. Nerea reached for her weapon but didn't lift it. Would they fight again? Or would they fight together? High above, in the cold shadows of a command tower, a quiet voice spoke into a communicator. "These two are a threat," it said. "Next time, make sure they don't leave alive." The match was over, but the real fight had only just begun. The walls were cold. The floor was colder. Deep beneath the arena, away from the lights and the crowd, silence filled the underground. Prison. This was where fighters were kept between matches. If they survived, it smelled of rust, sweat, and old blood. The dim lights flickered, casting long shadows that never stayed still. Echoes of distant screams drifted through the halls. Some were from pain, others from those begging for another chance to fight and prove their worth. But in one dark cell, there was only quiet. No shouting, no rage, just breathing. Callum sat against the wall, his arms resting on his knees. His shoulder throbbed with every breath, and his knuckles were still raw from blocking blades. A shock collar around his neck had punished him after the match, sending a jolt through his body the moment he refused to finish the fight. But none of that mattered. He had done something no one else had done in over 100 cycles. He refused to kill in the blood pit, and worse, to those in charge, he had offered mercy to their champion. Across the cell, Nerea stood with her back to him. She hadn't said a word since they were thrown in together. Her golden eyes stared into the wall as if trying to burn through it. She was still wearing her armor, though it was dented and stained. Her arms, covered in ritual tattoos, remained tense and ready. But something had changed. She had tasted a kind of defeat that wasn't wrapped in pain, and she didn't know how to make sense of it. Callum didn't push her. He knew better than to speak too soon. Silence had a way of showing truth faster than words. Minutes passed, maybe more. Then she turned. "I don't understand you," she said, her voice low and rough like stone rubbing against stone. "Why didn't you kill me?" Callum didn't move at first. Then he looked up slowly. His face was calm, his tone quiet. "Because I didn't come here to be like them," Nerea frowned. "Them? The ones who sit in the crowd and scream for blood like it's a game. The ones who feel strong only when someone else is weak," Callum replied. "They wanted me to become a monster. I chose not to." Nerea crossed, her arms unsure if she was angry or curious. She had grown up being told that victory was survival, and survival came only through strength. Mercy had never been part of her world. In her world, mercy got you killed. "You fight like someone who's been trained," she said. "But you don't finish the fight." "I fight to stay alive," Callum said, "but not to destroy." Silence returned, but it felt different this time. She stared at him as if trying to find the lie in his words. But there was none. Only honesty. And something else. Conviction. "I was 8, Nerea said suddenly. The first time I hesitated. My opponent was already bleeding on his knees. I paused, just for a second. My father broke 3 of my ribs that night, said weakness would get me killed." Callum's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. His eyes didn't flinch. "That's not strength," he said quietly. "That's fear in disguise." She looked away. No one had ever said that to her before. Above them, The crowd had already moved on to the next match. Another pair of fighters were, in the pit, forced to bleed for entertainment. Nothing had changed up there, but something had changed down here. Heavy boots echoed in the hallway. The sound grew louder, closer, then the door slid open with a hiss. 3 guards entered, followed by a thin man with pale skin and silver eyes. His name was Mal Vox. He didn't wear armor, he didn't need to. His words were sharper than any blade. "You ruined the match," Vox said, his voice calm but cutting. He looked at Callum like he was an insect. The audience was promised blood, instead they got a lecture. "We didn't come here to please your crowd," Callum said firmly. "No," Vox agreed. "You came here to die. But now, you're interesting. And interesting means more pain, more attention, and a much bigger stage." He turned and tapped a control panel. A glowing image appeared in the air. A massive arena with moving walls, fire traps, and a crowd twice the size of before. "You'll face a new challenger," Vox continued. "Together." He looked at Nerea, a traitor. Then at Callum. And a fool. "His name is Varric, the Steel Beast. You'll both fight him. One human, one rebel, one monster. The people will love it." Nerea growled low in her throat. "Varric doesn't stop until the body is in pieces." "Exactly," Vox smiled. "Let's see how long your mercy lasts when he starts tearing you apart." The guards left. The door slammed shut. Callum leaned back against the wall, breathing slowly. He knew what was coming. The Empire didn't want survivors. They wanted a show. Nerea stood still for a long moment. Then she turned to him. "If we fight him," she said, "we fight as one. No secrets, no mistakes, only survival." Callum nodded. "Then we fight as one." He paused. "But I need to know, why did you stop?" Nerea looked down at the scar on her shoulder, the one from her father. Her fingers brushed it gently. "Because for the first time," she said softly, "I wanted to understand, not destroy." They didn't shake hands. They didn't make promises. But something had changed between them, and far above, the arena was being prepared. This time there would be no mercy. The sun above the arena was artificial, a burning white circle controlled by machines hidden high in the dome. But the heat was real. It baked the stone floor, melted the metal traps, and made the air feel thick with tension. The new arena was larger than any Callum had seen before, wide, harsh, and cruelly designed. Instead of a circle, it was shaped like a triangle, with 3 cages at each corner. In the center were rising walls, spinning blades, and pits that opened without warning. Flames hissed from vents in the walls. This wasn't a place for battle. It was a place for death. Callum stood alone in one cage. He had no weapon, no armor, just his worn clothes, bruised hands, and the weight of what was coming. His body still ached from the last match, and the pain in his leg was worse with every step. But he didn't let it show. Across the arena, in the second cage, Nerea stood with her arms crossed. Her new armor was dark and sharp, covered in ridged spikes. Her eyes were narrow and calm, but Callum knew her well enough now to see past that. She was focused, alert. She wasn't afraid, but she wasn't overconfident either. They had spent the last 2 days speaking in low whispers behind the guards' backs, sharing what they knew, planning what little they could. It wasn't trust, not fully, but it was something stronger than fear. The third cage opened. The ground trembled. Out stepped Varric. He was taller than both of them, nearly 8 feet. His body was a mix of flesh and metal. Plates of armor were bolted into his skin. His arms were thick and curved blades grew out from each wrist like claws. His face was gone, replaced with a black helmet that hissed with each breath. Red lights glowed where eyes should have been. He didn't walk. He stomped, each step leaving cracks in the floor. And he didn't speak. He didn't need to. The crowd shouted his name like a chant. "Varric! Varric! Varric!" Above them, the voice of Mal Vox rang through the speakers. 3 enter. Only 1 may leave. Let the arena decide. A loud bell sounded. Then, silence. Callum's heart beat, slowly. He looked around, scanning the walls. He wasn't thinking about just surviving anymore. He was thinking about the way the walls moved, how the floors shook, and where the traps were likely to spring. This wasn't just a fight. It was a plan. A carefully crafted death show. The Empire didn't expect a winner. They wanted a slaughter. Without warning, one of the walls dropped. A spinning blade burst from the floor. Nerea jumped back just in time, but her leg was cut by the edge. Blood dripped onto the hot stone. Varric didn't hesitate. He charged straight through the middle, smashing one of the barriers with a single swing. Metal and stone flew into the air. He moved like a machine, fast and heavy. Nerea met him first. Her blades clashed with his, sparks flying. She was fast, more skilled, and her strikes were precise. But Varric's power was overwhelming. Each of his attacks was like being hit by a falling building. Still, she didn't fall. Callum moved from his position, sprinting to the side. The floor beneath him shifted and a trap opened. He barely caught the edge of a pipe and swung over it, landing hard. He grabbed a broken metal rod lying nearby. He had no blade, but even a stick was better than nothing. He threw it at Varric's side. It bounced off. Useless. Varric turned to face him. The monster charged. Callum braced himself, but at the last second he ducked. Varric smashed into the wall behind him. Stone cracked and dust filled the air. Callum ran, ribs aching from a shallow wound where one of Varric's blades had caught him. He didn't stop. Nerea screamed and leapt onto Varric's back, driving her blade deep between his shoulder plates. For the first time, Varric made a sound, a roar, deep and mechanical. He threw her off like she weighed nothing. She slammed into the far wall and didn't move. Callum forced himself up, limping. His side burned, blood soaking through his shirt, but there was no time to stop. Varric was walking toward Nerea, raising a blade for the final strike. "Hey!" Callum shouted. Varric turned. Callum ran straight at him. No weapon, just speed and fury. At the last moment he dove, hitting Varric square in the chest. The force pushed both of them into an active fire trap. Flames burst up around them. Callum screamed as heat seared his skin. He felt something snap in his leg, but Varric stumbled. That was enough. Nerea stood barely. She limped forward, her face pale, her side bleeding, but her eyes steady. With a final cry, she jumped forward and drove her blade into Varric's throat. It went deep. Varric twitched, then dropped. Silence. Then the crowd screamed louder than ever before. Nerea dropped her weapon. She ran to Callum, who was lying on the ground, his eyes half closed, blood covering his side. "You fool," she whispered, lifting his head into her lap. "Why did you take the hit?" Callum smiled weakly. "You needed the moment," he said. "I gave it to you." "You're dying." "I've died before," he whispered, then passed out. The gates of the arena opened, but the story wasn't over. Callum awoke to silence. Not the silence of fear or waiting, but the kind that felt peaceful, almost calm. His body ached. Every breath pulled tight against the bandages on his chest. His leg was wrapped, stiff and heavy. He blinked slowly, trying to understand where he was. The ceiling was metal, smooth and dark, but not the kind he'd seen in the arena. A soft light glowed from the walls. It smelled clean, no blood, no smoke. He was alive. He turned his head slightly and saw Nerea sitting nearby. She wasn't in armor now. Her tattoos were still visible, but she wore a simple dark uniform, and her arm was in a sling. Her eyes were tired, but when she saw him awake, she stood and walked to his side. "You should have died," she said quietly. "But you didn't." Callum gave a weak smile. "I get that a lot." She sat down beside him, watching him closely. "They pulled us out just before the flames. Got worse, you passed out. I thought you were gone." He nodded slowly. "I thought I was too." For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then the door opened, and a new figure stepped in. He was tall, lean, and wore no weapons. His skin was pale green, and his voice was calm. My name is Seren, he said. You're safe. For now. Callum struggled to sit up and Nerea helped him. Where are we? He asked. Seren glanced at them both. You're under the old city, far from the arena. We have people everywhere, watchers, healers, those who believe the Empire can't keep ruling through fear. You helped us? Nerea asked, frowning. We watched you, Seren said. You both did something the Empire never expected. You chose not to become monsters. Nerea's eyes narrowed. We were just trying to survive. Seren nodded. And yet you gave the crowd something they never saw before. Mercy, unity, defiance without cruelty. That matters more than you think. Callum leaned back, breathing slowly. So what now? Serene folded his arms. You have a choice. We can help you disappear, hide you in the outer zones, or you can help us, train others, show fighters there's another way, build something the Empire can't destroy. Nerea turned away for a moment, thinking. You want us to lead? We want you to inspire, Seren replied. You've seen the worst, and still you chose something better. Callum looked at Nerea. Her eyes were distant, full of doubt. He understood. She had lived her whole life being told that pain was strength and blood was the only path to respect. Now she was being asked to become something she was never trained for. Hope. She stood walking toward the window. Outside was a narrow tunnel, but further down Callum could see lights, people, maybe even families. A hidden world beneath the one that cheered for death. I don't know if I can be that person, she said. I don't know who I am without the fight. Callum sat up straighter. You're the one who spared me, the one who stood beside me. That's who you are. She looked at him, surprised. There was no challenge in his voice, only truth. He reached for her hand, not to shake it, not to pull her, just to offer it. Let's do it together, he said. She didn't answer right away. Then slowly, she placed her hand in his. Serene smiled faintly. Then we begin tomorrow. Days passed. Callum's wounds healed slowly and Nerea trained with the new recruits. The hidden shelter was full of people, some fighters, others just runaways from the systems the Empire had destroyed. Word of Callum and Nerea spread quietly. They weren't legends yet, but they were no longer alone. One evening, Callum sat on a crate watching a group of young fighters train. They stumbled, argued, failed, but kept trying. He smiled faintly. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't even a leader. But he had made a choice, and that was enough. Nerea walked up beside him. They're getting better. They'll need to, he replied. The Empire won't stay silent. They won't, she said. But we won't be silent either. He looked at her, seeing the fire in her golden eyes again. But now it wasn't rage. It was purpose. Far above them in the clean halls of the central tower, Mile Vox watched a screen showing empty cells. His face was calm, but his jaw was tight. They're alive, a guard said quietly. Vox didn't look away from the screen. Let them run. Let them hide. We'll find them. He turned, walking away. But next time we'll send someone worse than Varrock. We'll burn their hope before it spreads. Back underground, Callum and Nerea stood at the edge of a hidden path, preparing for their next mission. They didn't wear armor, they didn't carry banners, but they had something stronger. The will to choose. Not for the crowd, not for the Empire, but for each other. And for those who still believed there was something worth fighting for without, becoming what they hated. The arena was behind them, the real battle had only just begun.